This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
To the highway in a brand new day. Over the rainbow, gotta let it go. So fast to freedom. Dance tonight together. Here everyone is singing. 你看到我就怕，头皮发麻，我的手。
Welcome back to Open the Voice Gate for February 24th, 2022. We are members of the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. You can find us on the Voices of Wrestling podcast feed or on our own dedicated podcast feed on all podcast platforms and applications. You can follow us on Twitter at Open Voice Gate. If you would like to donate to the show, click the link in the show notes. It'll take you to our redcircle.com landing site. You just click the red box that says sponsor this podcast, and you can set up a one-time or recurring donation. No obligation whatsoever, but we would like to thank all of our previous donors. I'm one of your hosts. It's your old pal, Mike Spears, joined alongside, as always, my co-host, Case Lowe. And Case, what an insane, last 48 hours we've gone through. It feels like that the world, at least the wrestling world, has just been, in Japan, has just really have had a come to Jesus moment that I've kind of been talking about for a long time, at least as it pertains to some promotions.
I can only speak to my Twitter feed, but it has been a vintage week of people posting through it. And quite frankly, I have missed it. We are seeing takes so hot and so heavy from so many people in a way that feels very akin to a 2015-2016 wrestling timeline. And I enjoyed the quiet, calm nature of Dragon Kid's cats. It's Asumi Yokosuka going to the Dragon Gate dojo. That is primarily what trickles through my feed now. But Pro Wrestling Noah does something dumb, and boy, oh boy, are there takes, and I have greatly enjoyed this week.
You know, for me, as much as you had the tweet saying they ran this title match in Nagoya, Dragon Gate did a higher attendance on a house show with a kid who's 22 and someone who is a career-long mid-carder. That was kind of the big thing there. But for me, my biggest takeaway is, how long have we pointed out what Nosawaism is? This was going to happen. It was going to happen in this exact way. I know that Voices of Wrestling flagship Patreon has some reporting about it. And does any of that? We're both big students in Nosawaism here. We've talked all about the Tokyo Carnivals and Tokyo Dreams. Does any of this surprise you whatsoever, or has any of it been contrary to anything we've said about the Japanese wrestling landscape as it pertains to Pro Wrestling Noah? Any surprises here, Case?
I really have to tip my hat to you, because you have a lot of heavy-handed takes. You're going to drop one on this podcast in just a little bit, where I'm not totally on board with that line of thinking, but if you're right, you're going to look very, very smart for it. The Noah thing you have nailed from day one. This is his MO. He likes old guys that he was a fan of as a kid, and he's going to push those guys no matter what. And we're seeing a constant decline in the Noah business the longer this goes. And the backlash to this Noah show this past week is as strong as anything I've seen, at least again from my bubble, since the beginning of that evil run in New Japan in the summer of 2020. What I correctly, mind you, as I wrote in the Voices of Wrestling ebook, what I correctly said, okay, we're done with the golden era of New Japan. Whatever this is a different philosophy. It's different from 2012 through January 5th of 2020. Let's wash our hands of this promotion. Let's only check in on the big stuff going forward, because whatever this evil thing is contaminating the rest of this roster. And what we've seen over time, we've always said, or at least I've always said, because Mike is a little more checked out of Noah because he's a smart man. I've always said, I love the talent on the juniors roster. I hate the way the juniors are booked. I love a lot of the main eventers. I hate the way the main eventers are booked. The mid card is a wasteland. I'm not going to touch it. Let me check out this hype stuff from Noah. And it's amazing how seemingly every time they really start to gain some momentum, they do something dumb, like have Kaz Fujita beat Katsuhiko Nakajima, and they really shoot themselves in the foot over it.
And I guess, like, just expanding out on, like, the overall, like, Nosawa and the Cyber Agent Gambit is that it very clearly was to me, like, oh, Nosawa likes booking veterans. He likes booking legends. He's done it for however long he's run the Tokyo Carnival, the Tokyo Gurentai produce shows. He brings in people and they win. He brings in Mil Mascaris, who's 78 years old, and Mil Mascaris goes over. He brings in Dory Funk Jr. He brings in these guys and they win. So there shouldn't be a surprise that he wants to bring in these legends, and people like Ironhead Fujita and Keiji Muto are just going to say that doesn't work for me, brother. I am not losing to Kento Kinomiya. I will only lose to Takashi Sugiura. But the thing about this was, and we've been talking about this for a while when we talk about the overall Japanese wrestling landscape, is it was all right for about 6 to 9 months because that was at peak COVID. No one was really running very many shows that would have more than like 500 people in the crowd regardless. But they had this avenue with Abema TV, with Cyberfight, that they were going to attempt to get lapsed fans, the 50-year-olds that grew up watching like 90s New Japan and saw the Three Musketeers and these names and the Inoki MMA and Fast Nation, and that they would use the service. But the problem is, and this is the thing that like the data has borne out over the last 2 months, really starting from their Budokan showcase, is people will love to like watch, be reminded of this, be reminded of these heroes of yesteryear, but they're not going to shell out money to go see them now. Like, it's a low investment thing. There's low stakes to turn on a stream, as we've seen a lot throughout wrestling. This is not just in Japan. But when you ask them, unless there's like a special emotional attachment that you see with like the Rock and Roll Express around my parts, Rock and Roll Express case, they run anywhere in the Carolinas, you will get 500 people there at minimum. But people don't want to go do that for Pro Wrestling Noah. They don't want to see Muto with now degenerated hips because he got his knees replaced and now his hips have all the stress there. They don't want to see Fujita. They don't want to see the younger roster members get beat up by these old men because they can watch them on the stream, and that's the amount of commitment they're willing to do. And that's the downfall of Nosawaism. It was always going to end up this way.
I forget who made it, but in the Voices of Wrestling Slack, somebody made a very good comparison about Kiyomiya to Okada in 2012. And while I'm sure Okada would have become a star anyways, in the same way that Kiyomiya, to whatever degree he will become a star, will be a top guy, Noah is doing the equivalent of if Okada came in and let's say he still beats Tanahashi February 12th, 2012, but then he loses to Nagata, and he loses to Tenzan, and he loses to Nakanishi, and it's, oh, this is how Japan does things. This is the industry there. They're going to beat him to build him back up, when instead they just had Okada be a world beater, and now you see 10 years later they are still bearing the fruits of that push. It's the same thing that Dragon Gate's doing, and unfortunately we're marred by COVID restrictions, so we can't see the full impact of it, but like we said at the beginning of the show, December 19th, 2021, SB Kento versus UT in Nagoya for the Open the Brave Gate title just outdrew that Noah show. Yes, by less than 100 fans, but when you're promoting it as a house show in a market that you ran to death at the end of 2020 and a lot in 2021, compared to a hyped Noah match with your biggest active star in Katsuhiko Nakajima and one of these retired legends that you've brought back essentially from the dead in Fujita for your biggest title, it is a very bad look to get outdrawn by Dragon Gate. And it's because Dragon Gate saw something special with SB Kento, and they said, we're going to have this guy beat Dragon Kid and kill the Toryumon generation and protect him in these big spots. They've handled him like he's a big deal. In Noah, unless you're coming from the 80s or 90s or, God forbid we get Mascaris in the country, then it'll be Mascaris beating people, a star from the 70s beating people of today. You're not looked at as a star in Noah. And something that we're seeing, especially after the generational warfare in Dragon Gate, is, hey, if you're from the Toryumon generation, you better move out of the way. This is not Naruki Doi's unit. This is Kota Minoru's unit. Dragon Gate is constantly building towards the future. Pro Wrestling Noah is not. And that concerns me over something that we were talking about earlier this week. I think we were talking about it before the Fujita thing even happened. It was just a conversation that came up between the two of us, talking about the state of pro wrestling in Japan. And obviously, we're not in Japan. There's going to be people that might be a little more qualified to talk about this than us. But I found it very interesting at the start of the year when Japan announced they were rolling back some restrictions, and you're either going to be able to run, half capacity with crowds that can make noise, or full capacity with a clap crowd still. And Jay on Twitter had what I thought was a very realistic thread about the dangers that the pro wrestling industry in Japan is going to face going forward, where we're now existing into 2 years of COVID restrictions. And we're dealing with, yes, Noah and DDT have these strong financial backings, but to my knowledge, and again, this is mainly Noah, but I don't think I've missed any major DDT growth during COVID-19. We're dealing with two promotions here who have major backings but are not showing signs of growth. New Japan is undoubtedly the number one powerhouse in this country, but I tend to think, and we'll see what happens, we'll check back in 6 months, but I tend to think they're on the decline a little bit. We have Stardom, a nice little company. This is not the week to do the Stardom discussion, but by no means are they a force of nature in this industry. They're a company with a giant backing who appears to have a nice core roster full of talented women. I wish them the best, but they are not a powerhouse in the industry by any means. And you have this independent in Dragon Gate, who is the number two, but number two in a dying industry is still a company that, has to fight to some degree to keep its head above water.
Yeah, that just reminds me, and you bring up the number two thing. I remember when Pac first won the Dream Gate, and this was this issue might have been in 2019, but there was this issue of Shoot Pro. Dragon Gate gets poorly treated by the mainstream periodicals in wrestling in Japan because they don't run Tokyo and don't have conglomerate backing, but it's neither here nor there. And they had a picture of Pac with the Dream Gate on the cover, and the quote, and it stuck with me, was, "Why be the number two when you could be the only one?" And that really resonated with me. And that's kind of like Dragon Gate goes its own path. And we kind of saw that this weekend. You brought up the idea of the youth at the forefront. When we get into Memorial Gate, Naruki Doi, yes, was in a match third from the top, but he was not featured in it really that heavily. Whereas the semi-main event and main event all had wrestlers under the age of 30. All had people that, with the exception of Eita, debuted after 2014. Really puts things in stark comparison there. If you ask me.
What they're doing is insane. The youth they have and the trust they have in them, and the fact that they're able to do what they do and still draw respectable houses given the restrictions. Now, Memorial Gate in Wakayama was down this year, way down compared to last year. And I'll talk about why that is, because this was a very strange Memorial Gate this year. But all in all, we've seen them consistently draw in Korakuen throughout this time. We've seen them grow their COVID-restricted attendance in Nagoya, in Osaka, in Kobe. I am so excited for Champion Gate. I am so curious to see, especially night 2, but both of these nights, what they do with their attendance, because I think those are loaded shows. Those are really big title matches, and it's all youth. So if we're led to believe that Minoru and SB Kento and Hyo together, and I will even lump Shimazu into that because I would say he's a young main eventer compared to the rest of what the promotions in this country have to offer. If these guys are the stars that we think they are primed for a big weekend Champion Gate in Osaka. So a lot of what we've seen over the past year, laying the groundwork for the future, these guys that we talk about being the next year, the next 5 years, the next 10 years, they have a shot to look really good that first weekend of March. Or if those numbers aren't what they were last year with Skywalker versus Ishida in the main event, that's going to be looked at as a disappointment to me.
Yeah, and then you also have the aspect of Kai as still the outsider champion. Well, there's a lot of interesting kind of variables going on here, if you ask me. Well, because you have that, you have like the fact that really, like referring to that pack cover, we're talking about a promotion that did that full reset in 2018, and now we are approaching year 4 of that full reset. And when we get a chance to talk about our last topic for the day, it's something kind of seeing like a compare and contrast there in a lot of different ways, because this very much feels like a just drastically different promotion than where it was on May 6, 2018. And I feel like Champion Gate in a lot of ways kind of is putting these changes at a forefront, when the only Toryumon generation guy who is in a title match at Champion Gate will be Naruki Doi. It's wild.
Doi is specifically emphasized as the other guy in that unit. The focus is on Minoura and Ishida, which I love. I mean, the philosophy of Dragon Gate, and I've talked about this on this show before. I talked about this once with Aaron Bentley on an Everything Elite Patreon show, and I don't remember which specifically it was. I said this, and Aaron did call me a communist, which I'm going to disregard for now, but there is the way that Dragon Gate is structured as a company, with the champion helping set up the ring, and the top guys doing merchandise, and again leading the dojo, doing what they do, a co-op in the literal sense. It's a co-op. I love the way this company is structured from that perspective, but in terms of just doing their own thing, why be number 2 when you can be your own number 1, is something that I think is severely lacking, especially in the Japanese wrestling landscape. Because if you go back 20 years, Noah had a distinct flavor, and All Japan had a distinct flavor, and you obviously had Big Japan and Michinoku Pro and Osaka Pro, and then New Japan was its own thing. And part of my discontent with a lot of the promotions outside of Dragon Gate, which again is on its own island doing its own thing, is I feel like Noah and All Japan and DDT in so many ways are just presenting themselves like New Japan Light. And at no point over the last decade have I felt like Dragon Gate is veering into doing a lesser version of New Japan. If anything, New Japan has taken what Dragon Gate has done so well of promoting young, attractive men to a excited female demographic. They have taken that to a point that now Dragon Gate is using it in an angle where Doi is saying we have to be sure that we are the number 1 promotion for females in this country.
Yeah, and I mean, you talk about like the co-op thing. Well, the fact that the main eventers at Wakayama immediately went and hit the merch table right afterwards. That is Dragon Gate at its core right there. It is just what's better than seeing the guys you wanted to watch in a match? Well, you can immediately go and you can buy their t-shirt. They'll sign your t-shirt for you. I don't know if they're back to doing photos again, like that they were going to, but then Omicron happened, and it's just.
I think they're back to doing photos with like the windscreen dividing the wrestler and the fan. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure those are back. Apologies if I'm incorrect.
But yeah, so I mean, like that's just like an ethos that you don't have in other promotions other than like your micro indies in a lot of ways. Like when, just not to completely verge onto like another completely distinct topic, it's like the idea of ticket sellers in Japan. Ryan Fujiwara put out a blog that was talked about mostly for some actions of an OO wrestler, but something that like what we took away from it was just like it was operated more like a co-op, and that everyone had to sell tickets. You were supposed to sell so many tickets here. You got to cut the ticket sales. And that is something that within like the top tier of Japanese wrestling does not exist anymore. And Dragon Gate still has that spirit. They don't do ticket sales from like the roster members really, but like that there still is that blood that runs through it that I think is kind of, I wouldn't say absent. It's just like that you don't have to do that when you have a Bima TV or Bushiroad behind you.
Yeah, I guess the moral of the point I was trying to make is not to dissect Noah booking, although, boy, that could be a podcast, but to reemphasize that point that even if, let's assume that Japan is going to come out of Omicron and, I don't know how it is in South Carolina, Mike, but as of the next Monday when this is released, Chicago's dropping their mask mandate and their vaccine mandate. They are not necessarily looking at the numbers and going, hey, we're good to go now. They are going, we're sick of COVID and we're just going to pretend it's not here, which most of the country has done already, but for Chicago to do it is pretty jarring. Let's say by summer, Japan is somewhat back to air quotes normal. The point of this is to say, hey, there's a lot of red flags in the industry right now. Things are looking really rough when you, again, you have Noah and DDT that are propped up by a giant corporation, so they're going to be fine because Noah could have gone out of business 2 or 3 years ago without Cyber Age. There's a reason that acquisition was made. You have New Japan and Stardom, who we'll see if they grow. They have giant financial backing, but outside of New Japan and Stardom, the only promotion that I feel comfortable about their health and their long-term prosperity is Dragon Gate, and that's not because I cover them on this podcast. That's because they've shown over the last 4 or 5 years that they have a 5-year plan, that they have a 10-year plan, and I just don't believe that from any other promotion, which is incredibly troubling as I will continue to reiterate, the industry is already in bad shape in that country.
Yeah, and just to further underline your point, Dragon Gate had to do this because Dragon Gate not having the backing and knowing the fact that their core roster that's been around for over 22 years is aging and we're starting to see retirements, they knew that they would have to prepare the crowd for the next generation, because if they didn't prepare the crowd for the next generation, that's it. That's game over. So Dragon Gate had to be forward thinking, and the fact that they are forward thinking should not necessarily be like, oh, Dragon Gate is completely above and beyond. Dragon Gate just knows the conditions here, whereas it seems like that you look at other promotions and they have the training wheels in a way. Dragon Gate can fall off the bike at any time, and they know they couldn't.
Yeah, I mean, look, this promotion could very easily headline Champion Gate with Yamato versus Naruki Doi, and then, they could move on from there. That's the very easy thing to do, but what does that get you in 3 years when Yamato can't go at that level anymore and Doi finally retires? They have an idea. It's why I know you want to do this at the end of the show. I would like to talk about GLEAT right now, because we both have GLEAT takes that are I'm not going to use that word. They are loosely related to the Dragon system, so I would like to talk about GLEAT if that's okay with you,
Sure.
because I know you have a lot to say on this promotion.
Yeah, so GLEAT crowned their first champion, the G-Rex champion. It is Dragon System member El Lindaman. It's his biggest title win of his career, I would say, and it came off of a Cork and Hall crowd that I don't have the exact attendance in front of me, but it was, with the way that they run and with that, it was, I think it's fair to say, a disappointing Corkin crowd, I would say. I mean, it was under 500. I know that.
It was 462 fans, which, just
right,
for comparison's sake, the last time that Dragon Gate ran Cork and Hall, just again, this is just to merely put things in perspective. They ran Cork and Hall on February 4th and drew 662 fans, and we talked about that as being a little bit of a disappointment compared to the numbers they were doing at the end of 2021.
Right, yeah. So, and with OWE where it is, just the
non-existent.
Yeah, I was gonna say one sentence thing. Just treat it like it's a dead entity. I mean, for everyone, unless you are a big Captain Ah-Ben fan, it's dead. Or oh God, I'm trying to remember what his name is. Scorpion, X Double, and Gao Xinjia. I miss Gao Xinjia. That guy had something.
Oh my God! Oh God, those kids were so good. It's really, I look forward to, whoever comes after us, the Dragon Gate podcast, or probably it's the Dragon Gate NFT that comes 15 to 20 years from now, that's going through the OWE split as their Patreon series, and they're going to come across that match in Kyoto that was, Shima, Scorpio, T-Hawk, and Gao Xinjia, and they're going to go, wait, what the fuck is this? Who are these kids doing moves that we've never seen before? What happened to these guys? It's like, well, they worked in Wrestle 1 for a second, and then they kind of went away forever, and that's the end of their story.
Yeah, 15 years from now, I will be appearing on Between the Sheets talking about May 6, 2018, basically.
I would love to hear that.
But yeah, so GLEAT it was called G Pro Wrestling version 18. They put it up on YouTube. They put all their shows up on YouTube. El Lindaman had a standout performance. Honestly, the best match I've seen out of anyone in the Dragon System this week was the opener they had. El Lindaman defeated T-Hawk, and then El Lindaman defeated Hayato Tamura to become the first G-Rex champion. and on a show that had I mean, Shima was in a tag team, was in a Atomicos against Kazuma Sakamoto, but teaming with Kikutaro on the show. We had Shigehiro Irie and Issei Onizuka versus Rising Hayato of All Japan and Hime Pro and Atsuki Aoyagi. Just, I'm trying to think of like how I want to say what I want to say, Case, because
let's build up to that.
Yeah.
Do you have thoughts on the match of Lindaman versus T-Hawk? Because you said it was the best thing that happened in the Dragon system this week. I would go as far to say, and I've watched this match twice now, other than AC Mack versus Alex Shelley and Action Wrestling, this is the best match I've seen this year, was Lindaman versus T-Hawk.
I liked the second Danielson versus Page match more, to be honest.
That was this year, wasn't it? Okay, I liked, other than Alex Shelley versus AC Mack and Danielson versus Hangman Adam Page, I liked Lindaman versus T-Hawk the best out of anything I've seen this year.
I think I have like 1 4.5-star Dragon Gate match, but I would put this up there with it. Like my big thing, and I didn't really take notes on this, I sat down and watched it and kind of just ingested GLEAT this afternoon.
Because have you seen any GLEAT before this? You've avoided it.
It's something where, and I guess I talk about my overall thing about GLEAT, with the exception of Strong Hearts, GLEAT does nothing for me. It's just like Ladette UWF. I respect the style. I do like that style when it's done very well. It just is not something I'm going to take my time and watch, to be honest. A lot of the people on the show, with the exception of Strong Hearts people, you could just see the difference in my mind, with the exception of like the Legends or like Kazuma, you know. But like, it's just is something that like I like when I stepped away and watched the show. I'm like, there are some things about GLEAT that I think are really kind of cool, and they do things in a way, and they have an angle they're going for that it's going to be interesting to see it all play out. But it does seem like that this is a promotion that's going to be here for a fun time and not a long time. Like that was like my big takeaway for just watching this entire show. Like compare contrast this case with like Wrestle 1, and that's kind of how I felt about watching this.
I am so curious to see if GLEAT, let's say Japan gets out of this COVID debacle, what they look like with no restrictions, because I cannot for the life of me place where they fit into this ecosystem. I really have no idea, because they have a lot of guys that I like. You obviously have the Strong Hearts. I really like Soma Watanabe, and every time I watch him, I wish they would do more with him. He was under a mask in Wrestle 1, which I don't understand because he's a really handsome-looking guy with a great body. I wish they would push him more. I like Hayato Tamura. I believe the kid with the kind of fringy boots is Nobuhiro Shimatani, and I think he's
formerly DDT, right?
Oh no, don't quiz me on the DDT roster when I'm not prepared for it.
I thought he was a member of Damnation.
Let me double check here real quick, because I have the cage match pulled up, and he is still a member of DDT. He wrestles there on the Gambari Pro shows, but let me see if he worked DDT main roster. Yes, good call, Mike. He was a member of Damnation. I would not have got that if this was 5-star match game. I really like a lot of their roster. I like their presentation. I like the fact, as somebody that, you know, still for all of his faults is a ginormous fan of Shima and what he brings to the table. I like that there are things in this promotion that are now really absent from current Dragon Gate that are we can now see what was a Shima idea and what was a other Dragon Gates idea. Shima very clearly has his fingerprints all over this promotion, and I really like that. I like that style of wrestling, but they have never popped a number, even with COVID restrictions, that has been all that impressive to me. Outside of their New Japan partnership, they seem to have no relevance in the Japanese wrestling world. I enjoy their shows in a vacuum, and now that Lindaman's champion, I'm going to go out of my way to watch everything that Lindaman does, but I watch a lot of their big shows. I go, this was fun. I'll see you guys in a few months when you guys have another big show, and I don't know what to do with that. I don't understand their place in the ecosystem, but you seem to have a pretty good idea of it.
Yeah, it's something that with like Ladette had success before owning Pro Wrestling Noah. They did the produce shows for Choshu and Kobashi. Yeah, they did the Fortune Dream shows. So like they had the experience with that, and you could see that there. But it also is something that you look at the attendance numbers and the fact that you have a promotion of Shima, and Shima's seen as such like a cornerstone of what was Dragon Gate up until 2018, and the fact that Shima's second from the top, and you have T-Hawk and Lindaman only drawing 460 in Cork and Hall. That's bad. Like that's like outright bad there, and it just does not seem like it's going to exist for a long time. It seems like they have a lot of money invested in it, which I know that there was like a Twitter kerfuffle about saying where that money is from. I do not care to get into that. That is a legitimate company, but it seems like it runs through money very, very quickly. I mean, they had Kenta Kobashi on this show. Kenta Kobashi has a lot better things to do in life without a pay. If you're not going to pay him, than to show up at a Cork and Hall show that has only 500 people in it doing YouTube commentary.
You're saying Kenta Kobashi has better things to do than tower over El Lindaman after he's crowned world heavyweight champion?
El Lindaman was so good. Like his reactions there, like, God, he has such a command of presence going like, wait, what's going on here? How is this happening? Like just like befuddled and just could not believe that he both won this title and then was like being congratulated by one of the 10 best wrestlers of all time, Kenta Kobashi.
Yeah, that's more so than the questionable money that might be behind GLEAT or their bizarre vacuum-like identity that they've, put forth since their first show. I do think it's worth talking about El Lindaman for a minute. Again, I loved the match with T-Hawk. I thought the finals with Hayato Tamura, that was a 4-star match for me as well. So Lindaman has 2 notebook matches in one night. He is not the greatest what if in Dragon System history, because by the time he left the promotion, and maybe this is a hot take, maybe you don't agree, but by the time he left the promotion, I felt like we had seen his ceiling. We knew what he was going to be, which was lower mid-card, kind of comedy fodder. I don't think he fit in as a heel with Berserk and Antios very well. And I don't think while he's incredibly talented, he doesn't have that underdog Jackie Funky Kamei like babyface charisma, or at least well, you know what? I'm not going to go as far to say that. I will say by the time Lindaman left, for as sad as it was that he was leaving, I was okay with him leaving because I was not happy with his current state in Dragon Gate. And I'm very, very happy to see him doing what he's doing now.
Yeah, it was also at a point in his career that he needed to go away, too.
Yeah, I mean the guys that left in 2018, Shima, T-Hawk, Lindaman, Shingo, will remove Yamamura. If he was healthy, I would have wished he would have stayed.
Yeah.
But those guys needed to go. And it seems to have worked out best for everybody, with the exception of maybe Shima, although I will still point to the fact that before COVID, he was going to move to Mexico and get a giant push in AAA, and AEW had plans for him. So that's up to, what's going on in your mind of if you think that's better than Dragon Gate or not.
Yeah, and I guess like my overall thing about GLEAT is like they put all their shows up on YouTube for free. They have merch, but it does not seem like it's like a big merch machine that even like before GLEAT, how Strong Hearts was just pumping out merch nonstop case. Like they were constantly goosing that and trying to get it for all the pennies you can get out of it. So you look at this, there's no sponsorships that I could tell of, so it looks like it's all like Ledette, just imagery around. It's all that iconography, nothing on mats, nothing on turnbuckle pads, and that's revenue coming in. So your revenue there, I mean, yes, it's cheaper to run some of these buildings right now, but as soon as people can have full capacity, they're not going to get those. Running Tokyo Dome City Hall case is going to be a lot more expensive. We're not going to be seeing many promotions run there, just like how we didn't before 2020. Same thing with the Budokan Hall in a larger context. So then you like look at this and you're like, oh, how is this company making money? It's just tickets. It looks like, at least on the surface, it's just attendance, and they run a whole lot. Don't get me wrong there. But they also run a whole lot, and they have a pretty small core roster. And in case, do you think that Shima is decided, hey, I'll take a little pay cut here? Maybe a little one, but do you think that Shima took like significant, like Shima's going to get his bag? So
No, because we referenced the Fujiwara Substack earlier, and all I could think about when I was reading about the funding that went into Jerry's promotion, WNC, obviously GLEAT, at least from what we can tell, with Ledette being the backer, has a stronger financial backing than WNC did. But talking about the lack of return on investment and the continuous depleted morale that WNC had, all I could think about was GLEAT, and the fact that Minoru Tanaka and Kaz Hayashi and Shima are going to demand a certain level of money. And if you're a Soma Watanabe, or even possibly, and I don't know this for sure, but if you're an El Lindaman, you got to be going, fuck, man, this sucks. We're not going anywhere. I would love to know what that locker room looks like. I would love to know if they could, if they set Cork and Hall up with 1,800 fans, what that number would look like. How many fans are they going to get in the building? I still have so many unanswered questions about what the hell GLEAT is.
yeah, and that kind of was like my big takeaway from watching the show, other than like, oh yeah, El Lindaman, like when you put him in like singles matches, and we've seen this before 2018, that like he's nails in the ring just as much as anyone with the Dragon System standard. It's just now you have the idea that I don't know if they're going to be doing like a separate Ledette UWF championship, but now you have the idea that he is the first champion of the company, and you're putting the weight on his shoulders, and that's another big question right there for a guy that, other than like losing his hair at Dead or Alive, I don't think he even sniffed like a post-intermission match at a Big 5 show in Dragon Gate.
I was looking at his title history earlier, and I was really surprised that he only held the Triangle Gate titles once, and that was a relatively short reign, 125 days as Triangle Gate champion. And he actually, that belt, do you remember why, as we play cage match on air here, so the titles are won by Lindaman, Shingo, and Yoshida in July, but when they lose the titles, they lose them to Eita, Shingo, and Kanda. Were they doing like a Freebird rules thing with Berserk at that point?
Man,
I know.
July...
I'm asking you to remember late 2017 booking, which is the meanest thing I've ever done to you.
Yeah, jeez. Let me pull up Triangle Gate matches to see if I could pull this out of my ass. I don't remember.
Anyways, the point is that Lindaman only had one brief reign as Triangle Gate champion. The highlight of his career, and Lindaman will always hold a special place in my heart because he was the first rookie that I watched debut in real time in Dragon Gate. I came in just a little bit after the Ryotsu Shimazu debut. So when Lindaman hit the ground running in August of 2014 as Yuga Hayashi, he was very much, and I think everybody watching at the time can agree that when he debuted, yes, he was small. Yes, he was little just in terms of the way he was built, but we all looked at each other like, oh my God, this kid is incredible. And he was really emphasizing his judo background at the beginning of his career. So it seemed like Dragon Gate had found another one of those kids that they pluck from thin air, they put into the dojo, and all of a sudden they've got a competent professional wrestler. And he debuted as a very, very good pro. And then you see 4 months into his career, he gets put in the Doi Darts match. He goes toe-to-toe with Shima on the microphone in Cork and Hall, which cannot be understated how impressive that was for a literal rookie to go nose-to-nose with Shima in a promo battle. And then they put him in the Doi Darts main event, and he pins Jimmy Kanda in the main event of Cork and Hall 4 months into his career. And it seemed like everything after that was downhill.
Yeah, he did have like the standout thing. Like the big thing about Lindaman was that unlike his 2014, or no, I'm sorry, I'm getting my rookies wrong. Unlike the rest of the millennials, he was comfortable cutting promos against people like Shima. Unlike T-Hawk, who, very soft-spoken guy, and Eita, who only really came together as a promo, I would say, during his heel run. He was competent and was able to step up there, like to the point that actually beating or the crowd perceiving him beating Shima on the microphone when he debuted as El Lindaman was a huge move. So like he had that, and then it was something that like the whole overgeneration thing, that'll be a topic of a future episode.
Oh yeah, we gotta do that. We have to do the overgeneration rewatch. You're right.
Yeah. And like you had the Marylands very briefly, and that led to his heel turn. It just was something that like it was set up very much in a way of Dragon Gate, how they set up someone before they go on excursion. And 2018 happened, and it was a natural time for him to go.
In a way, one hell of an excursion.
Hey, I mean, going to Las Vegas, Nevada, just
good times. Now, real quick before we move on from Lindaman, we're in agreement that El Lindaman and face paint was not a very good pro wrestler, right?
Yeah, I mean, Shingo Takagi was right about that.
Yeah, well, did Shingo, was that part of the gimmick, was that he was mad at Lindaman for wearing face paint or something?
Well, he said like, "Oh yeah, I told you to have the face paint and the rope. You should drop it now."
Yes, yeah, that because late stage Berserk into Antias, what a bad unit.
Just sad days, I would say. But yeah, no, so it's going to be an interesting voyage, and this kind of ties into the overall, where does everything look like in Japan with wrestling, with attendance. Don't expect visas with Dragon Gate. That's its own. It will be easier to go to Japan as a fan to watch shows, I'm a full belief, than to be a international wrestler trying to work in Japan for the foreseeable future.
So I plan on seeing Ultimo Dragon this Sunday at a Lucha show in Chicago. I guess I will rip up my list of indie wrestlers that Dragon Gate should book. I guess I handed Tomohiro Ishii a $20 bill. I guess I will not be handing Ultimo Dragon my list of indie wrestlers that would do well in his promotion.
I mean, you should still do it. It's just like...
No, I'm going to walk up to him. I'm going to go, hey, can you bring the following? Can you please bring Jason Lee, Takuma Fujiwara, and Masaki Mochizuki with you next time, please? I would like to see all three of those guys wrestle live and in living color.
Oh, man. I would come up to that show and wherever that Lucha show is in Chicago to go see Jason Lee, Takuma Fujiwara, and Masaki Mochizuki live. I mean,
Jason Lee would be so goddamn good on a Chicago Lucha show. It pains me that will never happen.
Yeah, man. That's just sad. Now I'm thinking about that. I'm a little bummed. But Case, you know what does not get me bummed?
What's that, Mike?
That is HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking fun, easy, and affordable. And that is why it's America's #1 meal kit. HelloFresh delivers pre-portioned ingredients to your door, including farm-fresh produce that arrives within a week. So you get convenience without skimping on quality. So you're not going to get, your kale is not going to be wilted already. It's going to be on point for you there of HelloFresh. And they have a lot of options that they have coming up soon with HelloFresh lately, Case.
You know, Mike, I leave my apartment every morning right around 4 in the morning to go to work. And so that means that sometimes packages that are dropped off late at night are still in the lobby when I leave because they didn't have a chance to pick them up that night. And what I saw this morning, and this is a true story, what I saw this morning as I was leaving was a box of HelloFresh meal kits sitting in the lobby of my apartment building. And I can only assume that it was my next door neighbor who ordered HelloFresh with the Voices of Wrestling promo code because he heard me raving about my squash with bacon and scallops, or my beef ragu, or my spicy coconut curry pork noodle soup, which I'm not a big soup guy, but boy, does that sound good. I'm only assuming that the only other HelloFresh user in my building is the only person that can hear me right now is my next door neighbor. As I'm screaming about HelloFresh, he probably thought to himself, damn, I'm hungry. Damn, I could lose a little bit of weight. Beach season is right around the corner and I'd like to have a beach body. The best way I can do that is by planning my meals with a HelloFresh meal kit.
Yeah, that's right. And it's never been easier to get HelloFresh. You go to HelloFresh.com/VOW16 and use code VOW16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. That is HelloFresh.com/VOW16 and promo code VOW16 for up to 16 meals and 3 free gifts. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. In case, as we move on, we're going to move to the Dragon Gate proper here. We're in the thick of it. We had a nice, leisurely July, the beginning of February.
We had
It
a nice
wasn't-
leisurely July. Yes,
July?
we
Yes.
did.
No, we did not have a leisurely July. January, damn it, January. But now we are in the thick of it. We had 3 shows that we're covering on tonight's program. The first Fukuoka doubleheader of the year from the 20th, and then also Champion Gate from Wakayama on the 23rd. And it's only going to get more crazy. They've got a Kobe show this weekend, and then Corkin Hall and Champion Gate. It is, as you've put it, wrestling podcasters hell weeks coming up ahead of us. Hakata, I'll run through the results for Hakata. The big thing about this was the Triangle Gate Championship Tournament. Case, what were your overall big thoughts on the first appearance in Across Fukuoka for 2022?
My overall big thoughts is that for a month and a half, Mike Spears has been going, hey man, that first week of March, he's been staring on the barrel of this weekend of like, it's going to be so much. You don't even understand. Like, we've got the AEW pay-per-view, and there's a Corkin, and there's Champion in Osaka, and he has been sweating bullets about what should be possibly the best weekend of wrestling of this entire calendar year. He has been so nervous about it for a month and a half, and Mike, we're almost there, and we're going to get through it, okay?
I am looking at Monday the 7th. I'm looking at it. It's not that I'm dreading this. As you said, this is like one of the first big wrestling weekends of the year, and there's a lot of stuff for between AEW and Dragon Gate that I'm super into. Don't get me wrong. I'm just like, that's a lot of stuff to watch. I'm a pretty active person. That's going to have me sitting in front of the couch, in front of the computer screen a whole lot next week.
Yeah, I'm going to be watching the same thing. We're going to be doing multiple podcasts together next week. I'm going to be watching the same things that you are, and I look forward to it very much. As for the weekend in Fukuoka, the Triangle Gate tournament, as we predicted, a smashing success. I would not question anybody that went notebook on all 3 Triangle Gate matches. I did not. I went notebook on one of them. I now have a new Dragon Gate match of the year at 4.25 stars that we'll talk about. I thought the first show, the afternoon show, this was a rare instance where that show was the better of the 2. I really liked the afternoon show. Evening show, very good main event, and some stuff along the way.
Yeah, the afternoon show is the thing worth really seeking out. Other than if you're not going to cherry pick just the Triangle Gate matches, like the afternoon show was a whole lot of fun for me, and it's something with these double shots, these double headers, where like you know that you have 2 matches within like a 5-hour period, and it was Susumu Yokosuka's birthday, and Susumu Yokosuka was not anything important. So Susumu was going to just have himself a good time, you know. And attendance was, I mean, between the 2 shows, they had close to 600 seats in a building that, you know, I mean, does not fit that many people in it, even without restrictions. So, I mean, there's a reason why they keep on with it, but it's just, you know, people got to take a rest. Case, I mean, Susumu Yokosuka, it was birthday weekend. He was going to have a good time.
Yeah, attendance slightly down from the last time they were there. The the daytime show this time around did 232. The last time it did 288. And the evening show this time around with the the Triangle Gate Championship match did 326. The last time they were here, this was in October, they did 351. So a very small difference, but down nonetheless. But that did not stop Susumu Yokosuka and the boys from having a good time.
Yeah. And we came out of the weekend with the 76 Open, the Triangle Gate champions, the Natural Vibes team, KZ, UT, and Jackie Funky Kamei. It kind of was the weekend of Jackie, to be quite honest, with how he was really was put at the forefront of all this. But running down the afternoon card, we had a 6-man tag opener. It was unaffiliated, the unnamed new team, Kota Minoura, Naruki Doi, and Kaito Ishida versus Jason Lee, Takumi Hayakawa, and Ryo Fuda. It was Minoura over Hayakawa with the R301. They've already renamed this move twice. Maybe they're going to stick with it with the R301. We had High End versus Unaffiliated. Kakatora and Keisuke Okuda beat Eita and Yosuke Santa Maria. That love story continues unabated. Maybe one day Yosuke will get the kiss she desperately wants. Z-Brats versus Unaffiliated. It was a Dreamgate preview match. Kai, SB, Kento, and Diamante versus Ultimo, Masaki Mochizuki, and Big Boss Shimazu. Big Boss Shimazu got the Bokudamo style La Magistral on Kai. Match 4 was the Open the Twin Gate champion team, Dragon Dia and Yuki Yoshioka versus Natural Vibes, Susumi Yokosuka and Genki Horiguchi. It was Yoshioka with the frog splash. And then we got into our 2 tournament matches. They drew to start the show. They drew sides, and the 2 matches were Z-Brats versus Dragon Gate Future, and then the Natural Vibes team versus High End. It was, first up was Z-Brats, Hyo, BB Hulk, and Shun Skywalker versus Dragon Gate Future, the Ahashi brothers, Riki Nishin, and Takuma Fujiwara. Hyo got the win with the Black Panther clutch, and then in the main event, we had KZ, UT, and Jackie Funky Kamei of Natural Vibes versus High Ends, Yamato, Dragon Kid, and Benkei. And KZ pinned Benkei with the running elbow smash. And Case, my big thing that you've been talking about, you've been really on the fact that Benkei is kind of being built up for something. Benkei eating the fall like he did, does that kind of make you want to take a step back from that?
Yes, and I will stand by my opinion while altering it. I'm glad they've built up I'm glad they've built up Benkei the way they have, because it made him losing look that much better.
Yeah, and it was something that, I mean, KZ pinning Benkei, I mean, that's Yamato's not taking the fall there. Dragon Kid could have, but KZ makes the most sense really there. I mean, they're not going to have UT or Kamei get the fall over Benkei, so it's not a bad fall for KZ or for Benkei to take. It is the least embarrassing one on that side, I would say, and it did feel like that. In the closing stretch, they basically, Benkei just took headshot after headshot after headshot. I mean, the running elbow smash was during the spear attempt that we talked about this in 2020. He did the slide out in the spear, getting hit as hard as he could in his head. That's going to be something they continually do with Benkei from now until he retires.
Yes, this main event, High End versus Natural Vibes, is my new Dragon Gate match of the year. I went 4.25 stars on it. I thought it was the best thing I saw this weekend on the 3 Dragon Gate shows. Jackie Funky Kamei, at this time last year, was hurt. He came back in the spring. He looked really rough. We kind of wondered, hey, is Natural Vibes going to be the right fit for him? Is this the right gear for him? Does he look right in this unit? And then he had an okay summer, and by the time we got to October and he wrestled SB Kento, he has now found his groove, and he has been riding that wave. We're talking about a match that was October 17th. That was almost 6 months ago now. And he has been riding that wave ever since. Yes, KZ was great. Yes, Benkei was great. Of course, UT commanded the ring. But Jackie Funky Kamei, and he's done this before. I make a note of this every time they're in the ring together. JFK stands up to Yamato, and those two go at it in this vicious chop battle every time they're in a match with one another. This time, Kamei, ever so briefly, was able to get the upper hand on Yamato, and he stole the show for me. This was the Jackie Funky Kamei show. By the end of the weekend, he ended up with his first title, which it came across to me at least like a really big deal. Even though this guy's only been on the roster for 2 full years, this felt like a really big deal in the sense that he has been scraping and clawing, and he's undersized and outmatched by a lot of this roster, but that didn't stop him, with the power of Natural Vibes by his side, from winning his first championship. I loved this main event of Natural Vibes versus High End.
Yeah, I was not as high on that. My favorite match actually came in the night show, but JFK has a crowd presence and commanded the crowd that the crowd was with him in this like chop alley of Yamato. They were behind Kamei, not the company A's. And that tells you all you need to know. Like it was something that like we had the time. It's like, is it going to work out for him? You know, he's been understudying, and I've said this a lot, he's been understudying KZ and Genki Horiguchi for a reason, and it's already paying results. And he looked awesome in this, and it just was something that like the whole entire match was worked around Jackie Funky Kamei getting beat down and then eventually rising up, getting the hot tag to his teammates, and his teammates just running through Benkei. And it just worked in a way that like he was believable, that he was persevering in this semifinal match. And it was something that when he was facing off against the biggest star in the company, he was able to at least get 230 people behind him versus that star in the first appearance of the promotion and in this venue for the year.
I want to phrase this very carefully because I don't mean it as a backhanded compliment, but I have a spreadsheet on my computer. I'm trying to do more with it. It's kind of my ongoing project that I don't pay enough attention to, but I have been working on my match of the year by year list, and I'm just about through with every year from 2000 to 2021 of ranking the top 10 matches of every year. And because over the past month I've been watching so much old Toryumon content that I haven't seen in years at this point, it inspired me to go back to that list and see where some of the high-end Toryumon matches ended up. And what I've realized is that, 1999 has some really high points. 2000, 2001, there are legitimately great matches in that promotion. But by the time they hit 2002, Toryumon feels less like an experiment and more like a well-oiled machine. And that is, 3 years into their existence. And as we see UT continue to develop and hopefully stay healthy for a 2 or 3 year stretch, and as we see Kamei and SB Kento, and if Kakuta ever comes back, that would be great. As we see this generation of guys move forward into year 3, year 4, year 5. You have to remember these guys are still so young, not in terms of age, which they are, but in terms of experience. The groundwork has been set. We know these guys can have legitimately great matches. What is frightening to think is that we're going to hit a point, if their progression continues, and I have no reason to believe that it's not, that in another 6 months, in another year, in another 2 years, this, for lack of a better term, high-end output that we see from Kamei every once in a while, because this match was interesting, because a lot of times I feel like now we see, if Kamei and SB Kento have a great match, it feels very experimental. It feels very 2000, 2001, where these guys are finding it as they go, and they are just so happening to stumble into magic. This six-man, this main event, high-end versus natural vibes, felt like a well-oiled machine. It felt like 6 main eventers having this style of match that in a previous generation, Yoshino and Shima and Tozawa and Shingo would have had. I felt like this match was very akin to that. And as these guys grow older, we're going to see more and more of that. And that's really exciting to think that, we haven't touched the tip of the iceberg with a Kamei or an SB Kento or a Fujiwara or a Hayakawa or the Hashi brothers. Does that point make sense?
Yeah, it's something that is actually like the most rewarding thing about following the Dragon System the way it is, because you see that progression and you're like, oh, we see glimpses of it, like how we saw glimpses of SB Kento. I don't want to say being led into like the best match of his career, but being in the ring with Masato Yoshino, Naruki Doi, Susumu Yokosuka, Dragon Kid. I think Genki Horiguchi was the 5th one off the top of my head there, but you saw that it's like, oh, this is going to happen, and it's seeing them actualize on this potential each time that really drives it. I'm already stoked thinking about what 2025 would look like with what's going to happen when like SB Kento and Kamei finally join forces, and the things like that just make this like some of the most rewarding wrestling that one can watch.
The eventual Dragon Dia and Yuki Yoshioka versus SB Kento and Jackie Funky Kamei match is something that I very much look forward to.
And how can't you? It's just, there's already layers built up on that, considering that 2 of these guys have not yet had their 3rd anniversary yet.
Yeah, perhaps I was a little clunky in that explanation. The main point here is that Kamei looked like he fit in with a Benkei and a Dragon Kid and a Yamato. And even with KZ, he was lockstep with him there. And that's very important as he goes along. He's not the young guy that is overachieving. He is one of the guys pushing this promotion forward. And I think as time goes along, we're going to see more and more performances of him doing the same exact thing.
No, I'm totally with you on it. Like he felt like an adult, not a kid, in a way.
Very much so.
Makes sense.
Yes.
The other semifinal, I really enjoyed it too. The Futurist team, like Fujiwara, is someone that, boy, that they've taken the turning wheels off him, haven't they? Given this week, he just really it's something that like, when you see him in the ring with the rest of the Future class, you're kind of like, oh yeah, no, this kid is something special.
Which is crazy because Hayakawa plays his role so well, and the Hashi brothers, I think, are very, very good, but they're just not on the level that Fujiwara is. I mean, I came into this weekend thinking, okay, let's say we get Z-Brats versus the Future Class, which is what I really wanted, and I'm glad we got it. I think there's a 98% chance that Z-Brats are going to win this match, but there is a 2% chance. And maybe some people had it at 1, maybe they had it at 0.5. I had it at 2% chance that Dragon Gate was going to say fuck around and find out with Takuma Fujiwara, and he was going to score a roll-up win here, and they were going to challenge for the Triangle Gate belts. It would have been shocking. I'm not sure I would have done it, but this is a promotion that consistently goes, whatever you were thinking we're going to do, we're not going to do that, and it's going to pay off in the long run. And after watching Fujiwara in this match, and then after watching him in Memorial Gate, I think if they put him in a main event Triangle Gate match, he would fit in. I think he would play his spots well. We're going to find out when he semi-main events one of the biggest weekends of the year in a singles match for the Open the Brave Gate title, if he can fit in that scene. And right now, I have no doubt that he's going to be able to.
Yeah, and I was one of the people that I did not think there's a shot that Future was going to win this match, but we got the single deep 2 count that you have the moment of doubt of, wait, they could be winning this, and that's what I wanted for in this match, and when it happened, it came off even bigger than I expected.
He had a near fall on Hyo that was, the only way I can describe it is it was stupid how close it was to a 3 count. And Hyo is someone, I'll rave about him when we get to Memorial Gate, but who would have thought, Mike? And again, we're the perennial Hyo podcast. We have been supporters of him since he wore leopard print and Converse. Sounds like a woman I would like. But the fact is, we've always liked this guy. But I never would have imagined that he is now wily veteran, Doug Gilbert-esque walk and brawl heel to such a staggering degree, and it's so entertaining. Like, what he has done under the latter half of the RED tenure into Z-Brats is so remarkable, and you see it pay off in matches like this, where, again, despite the fact, and I'll use these terms for him as well, despite the fact that he's undersized and overmatched by a lot of the roster, he came across like a bruising heel in a situation where he should have against the true rookies of the roster. The dynamics here were just perfect to me.
Yeah, it's something that going to Hokkaido and deciding to screw up King of Gate last year was the best thing happened in his career, because he's been able to like embody like this idea. Like, you would think that, oh, this guy thinks he's smarter than everyone else. That's going to be like a Lanny Poffo like character. No, this is a guy that has used it, and it's like, I'm using my brain to get me out of all these situations because I am smarter than you. And it's in a way that fits his character, and it overcomes the undersized bit about him, and it shows the shades of that December 1st 2016 match where he came off like such a cocky prick that now he thinks he's a cocky prick who's smarter than everyone else in the room. And it's an edge that for a while I did not see that coming. Like, the heel turn, it was like, oh, okay, and he just kind of was like adrift. But they went up to Hokkaido, they went to Sapporo last year, and he decided that he was going to ruin Yamato's King of Gate, and it was the best thing that ever happened in his career, and it's been paying off ever since.
Yeah, the character rehab that has been done with Hyo over the past year and a half is so remarkable. I mean, I never would have imagined him as realistically the 2B or number 3 in a heel unit that I love. I think Z-Brats has hit the ground running. I love the aesthetic. I love the members. I think everybody, including Hulk, who is the one guy who, you know, am I in love with BB Hulk right now? No, I'm not. But even Hulk pulls his weight. Everybody, I think, is really clicking in Z-Brats right now, and a lot of that is because of the way that Hyo and SB Kento are running things. Even if Kai is the leader, this unit feels like a unit that belongs to SB Kento and Hyo.
Yeah, and it's something that I still think that Z-Brats needs that lost post. They need someone that consistently, because they're going to be put in 3 matches a night, they need to have someone that, you know, you could put in a match with, like Shun Skywalker, and you don't have to like give up Hyo for that, basically. But for now, you know, he doesn't lose any of his heat or his push, like eating falls the way he does, because he should lose these falls. You know, I mean, he is undersized. He is not as smart as he thinks he is, you know, and eventually, you know, someone like, and on the evening show, Jackie Funky Kamei is going to take advantage of a situation and catch you in a flash pin, and you're going to lose a title match. And that's Hyo's role there. And it's fascinating.
Yeah, really, really tremendous stuff. Go watch these two Triangle Gate matches, or these Triangle Gate tournament matches. I think they're well worth your time. If there was another match that I could point to on this show, Mike was a big fan of the Susumu Yokosuka antics in match number 4. I will steal a DM from friend of the show, Alan Forel, who said that Susumu was acting as Owen Hart this weekend, which was a very accurate comp. I really liked the third match on this show, Kai, SB Kento, and Diamante versus Ultimo, Big Boss Shimazu, and Masaki Mochizuki. I have a shocking statistic for you, Mike, that since
What's
debuting well, yeah, I got something good for you here. I'm really cooking. Since SB Kento debuted at the end of 2019, he has only wrestled Masaki Mochizuki 4 times. And that is a crime to me because, yes, I love SB Kento. Yes, I love Masaki Mochizuki. But those two, I think, have unreal chemistry. And they've only wrestled 4 times, once of which was here in Fukuoka.
Well, I think that's because SB Kento is well aware of Nosawaism and he knows that a 50-year-old could kick his ass.
Okay. I don't want to go back on the Noah thing. But
Sorry.
No. I was thinking about SB Kento, as I do, just daydreaming about SB Kento this week and how talented this kid is, despite being a year younger than me, which really hurts my feelings. It's so interesting. I was thinking about what SB Kento would look like if he went to Noah and worked an Eita-like schedule, or if he wrestled in New Japan Super Juniors, because, let's face it, he did outdraw Nakajima and Fujita. And I was thinking about, well, what could Drengi do to raise his profile even more? And I realized the best thing they could do is to keep him firmly planted in Dragon Gate. I think if a Jackie Funky Kamei or a UT or a Jason Lee or a Big Boss Shimazu, whoever you want to list, I think those guys could go out there and they could lead the charge of Dragon Gate from another promotion and possibly, idealistically, get eyeballs on the promotion. I wonder if part of the SB Kento charm is that he is so fine-tuned to the intricacies of Dragon Gate and what they look for in a star and what he brings to the table. I'm afraid that would get lost if, let's use the example that he just did a Super Juniors tournament. If he did Best of the Super Juniors and he's got to wrestle Master Wato and Despy and whoever else, am I crazy in thinking that everything that works so well in Dragon Gate might not transfer over for him specifically to another promotion?
I mean, if you can connect with a crowd in one place, you should be able to connect to them otherwhere.
Yeah, that's true. He's already undersized for this roster, and I will stop using that term now, I promise, but he is already smaller than a lot of the guys on a small roster. And this is not a knock on SB Kento. I actually think it's a case of Dragon Gate going, oh, here's how to make this guy a star. Let him do everything that he could possibly do well in our promotion, which will accept it. I'm afraid he would get dwarfed if he went off to a Noah or a New Japan. And all of a sudden, that charisma that we love would be gone, and that ring generalship that we love would be gone. And I don't know. It was just a fun thought experiment that I was thinking about over the weekend. If you disagree, or if you agree, I would love people's thoughts on this. Voice of Wrestling Discord at Open Voice Gate on Twitter. If you think SB Kento's charisma would translate to another Japanese promotion, because I'm not sure if it would, and I say this as possibly his biggest advocate.
It's something that I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that they wouldn't have the way that he's been pushed. Like, you can't necessarily drop him in there. Yes, you now that I'm really thinking about it, yes, you get over one place and get over elsewhere. But, he's not going to have the cachet that he got from being the person that dominated the Units Disbands match. He's not going to be like the supernova that the night he just promoted himself up from being a rookie, he won the Triangle Gate. He's not going to be like the guy that they basically ran all these shows on in the fall, where he basically was the headline star with the 2 years behind it. And I think that's what also makes it a little bit difficult. Like, you drop him in there, he does not have that cachet.
Whereas I think Jackie has a standalone gimmick that I would love to see Kamei do a Super Juniors. I think he would crush it there, and I think he would, at least for fans in our bubble, get new eyes on the product. If you look at the roster, is Hyo a good enough worker to survive in that environment? Maybe not. I think he would do well in Noah, or better in Noah than he would in New Japan. Obviously, Minoura, Dragon Dia, Yuki Yoshioka. I'll point to Jason Lee again because I think he would blow people's minds if he did a Super Juniors tournament. Even Fujiwara. I think those guys, you could place them in anywhere and people would get it. They, if they accept this style of wrestling, they're going to get it pretty quick. Oh, this is why this guy's a big deal. SB Kento, and I don't know. I guess the closest comp is like an ECW thing where Heyman was just able to use these guys in the right way in front of the right crowd to where they came across like bigger stars than they would. Now, obviously, Heyman was doing that with, 911 and Public Enemy and guys that weren't incredibly talented. SB Kento was incredibly talented, but I do wonder if he is one of those guys that needs to be in a certain promotion to come across like a star. Because we would lose that context of him killing the Toryumon generation if he did a Super Juniors tournament. And I'm so curious to see what that would look like, because for as much as I love him, my instinct is that I don't know if it would be great for him.
Yeah, and that's not necessarily knocking him or knocking New Japan. It's just going back to what we said starting up the show, is the company knew they had to get behind him. They knew they had something in him, so why not put the cachet in him now and let him benefit from it earlier than getting like a win in someone's retirement match.
Yeah, I also just think maybe avoid the cesspool of other Japanese promotions and just let him cook here. That is what Dragon is doing, and that's what they should focus on, is maybe don't have him involved with promotions that aren't as good right now.
No, that's fair. Moving on to the evening show, I'm going to run down the results, and then we can talk about the main event. That's really the big highlight of the evening. We had the Twin Gate champions, Dia and Yoshioka, beat Benkei and Kagetora of High End. They renamed the Reptilian Kai into the Double Cork, which, they've got to decide on some names for finishers. this is getting a little...
Andrew Rich's brain computer is going to combust because he's not going to know the name of these finishers or changing the names too much.
Yeah, exactly. Match 2, 3-way tag. Mochizuki and Fujiwara versus Susumu, and Genki versus Eita and Yosuke Santa Maria. Susumu got the win on Maria after Eita did a low blow. We had Ultimo and the Hashi brothers versus Kai, SB Kento, and Diamante. SB Kento submitted Ishin with the SB shooter. Singles match, Jason Lee versus Big Boss Shimazu. Kai interfered, gave Shimizu the medial impact, and pulled Jason Lee over him, continuing the Dreamgate build. Semi-main event, High End, Yamato, Dragon Kid, and Okuda versus Minoura, Doi, and Ishida. It was Minoura submitting Okuda with the Ingranaje. Haven't seen that one in a while. And then in the main event, the 76th Open, the Triangle Gate champion, decision tournament finals. It was Natural Vibes defeating Z-Brats when Jackie Funky Kamei got the Jackie knife on Hyo in 15 minutes and 1 second. After KZ interrupted a final stretch, like BB Hulk was rearing up for the first flash and just shoved him out of the way. And then Hyo just quickly got rolled up by Kamei in a really hot finish.
Yeah, this was very good stuff in the main event. Before we get there, do you want to talk about Shimazu versus Jason Lee for a second? Do you have thoughts on this? Because this match annoyed me.
I thought the work was solid. I thought they worked the size difference really well. Shimazu seems to be someone who's slimming down, which makes you wonder if you want to read the tea leaves about the match on March. God, I'm getting my months all kinds of wrong today, Case. Imagine how I'm going to be like next week. March 6th, it looks like, he knows he's main eventing. He's making himself look like his best self there. The interference with Kai, they've had so many shows since they've made this match that they have to eventually do new things to kind of keep it going, even though, they've done all the build. And they still have a Corkin before Champion Game. It's all right, what are you going to take out of your bag of tricks to continue heating up this feud? I would honestly do a 6-on-6 Natural Vibes versus Z-Brats match if that was me, but I don't book. But yeah, I can get why you're frustrated with, Kai doing the non-finish.
Yeah, the work was fine. I mean, Shimazu and Jason Lee had good chemistry. I think they could have a great King of Gate match one day. I am trying so hard to get into Kai as Dream Gate champion. I talk myself in before every show. I go, well, he's a great character and he looks good in this new unit. I see why they're doing it. I think the payoff of a babyface beating him is going to be worth it. Okay. And he got the belt off Yamato. It's a good thing that Kai is Dream Gate champion. I'm into this. And then I watch him work these in-between shows, and it's just not there for me. The matches with Yamato leading up to the Dreamgate win were not good. The matches with Yoshida leading up to that match were not good. I don't put the Yoshida match not being great on him. It was an unwinnable position for those guys to be in. But now, I like the Memorial Gate opener that we'll talk about in just a second. I like that match, but I am so into Shimazu has just been pinning everybody. He's looked so dominant for months now. For months as Big Boss Shimazu, he has looked like a killer. And then he gets crushed on the top rope, and Kai hits his finish and then drapes Jason Lee over. I just thought Shimazu looked weak. I didn't like this at all. This was going in the opposite direction, because if Shimazu would have just looked like a killer continuously, and Jason Lee can take this fall, it's not going to hurt him, even if he's headlining Memorial Gate, which we'll talk about the mess that was in the build of that. But Jason Lee could have taken this fall, or you just don't book this match if you don't want either guy to lose clean. This rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah, it's something where like Kai has done like the machinations of throwing matches and ruining matches, so like it's set in with his character. But it's something that, like, at least with Kai's champion, I immediately go, okay, they're building up the title match. I'm just going to look at this with those lenses and under that guise, and that kind of just was like my only like big takeaway. I didn't even rate the match. It just was something.
I did not either. It's the payoff, I think, is going to be worth it in the end. Whenever Kai loses, and I think it will be to Shimazu, but if it's to, Minoura or Eita or whoever, I think it's going to be worth it. But I am trying really hard to like this title run, and I am just not liking it right now.
Yeah, at least it does not seem like it's going to be a long one. I'm not completely sold that he's losing the title next week, but there's no way that the hot season starts with him as champion.
I would you say there's a 0% chance he holds the belt after Dead or Alive, or do you think there's a possibility he's champion going into King of Gate and into the hot season? I asked the tough questions.
Yeah, I think that there is a decent chance now that he holds the title going into Dead or Alive. This completely changes my weird Dead or Alive idea out of the way, where SB Kento is going to become champion there. But
so Dead or Alive is May 5th. May 6th is Kai Dreamgate champion. Do you think there's any possibility that happens?
Like 5% chance that they want to give someone, like, if they're going to actually build him up as a dominant champion, but they really haven't built him up as a dominant champion, though. They're going to have to change course now.
No, he's been very weaselly.
Yeah.
He didn't even, he beat Yoshida with a flash pin. He did it now. Granted, maybe it's just because he couldn't get Yoshida up for his finish, but he didn't even destroy him. And they present Yoshida currently as somebody that can be destroyed physically or emotionally.
Yeah, I say 10%.
Okay,
that's not great odds. That's terrible odds. Like if you're taking a 10% bet, you better hope that you're getting a big odds in your favor. You better be getting paid out really highly for that. But yeah,
betting that Kai is Dreamgate champion post Dead or Alive is a little bit like betting against the American housing market in 2005, where if you're right, great, but also at what cost?
Yeah, you're kind of an asshole.
Yeah, look, The Big Short is one of my, 5 favorite movies of all time. I rewatched it last week for the umpteenth time. I love The Big Short. I still don't understand what's going on. Those people were right, but it sucked because the American economy collapsed. I'm not saying bet, for or against Kai as Dreamgate champion. I'm just saying if he has the belt in May, I think something has gone horribly wrong.
Case a confirmed Selena Gomez and Richard H. Thaler fan.
That movie's so fucking good. Oh my god, just the way Steve Carell, that's his best performance. Hot take, it's easy to say Michael Scott. His best performance is in The Big Short. He's better than Dinner for Schmucks even. That's how good Carell is in The Big Short. That character is so... He's such a charming asshole in that movie. It's amazing. I love every scene of that film. It's tremendous.
I'm trying to think of other scenes of that film. I saw it once, and I was like, I liked it, but that's not my top five movie.
The Big Short, of course, not your favorite Selena Gomez movie. You are a Spring Breakers for life fan.
Oh, yeah. No, for sure. Harmony Korine, like that's no surprise. The ATLien monologue is one of the most powerful monologues and the biggest cultural touchstone in American culture of the 21st century. I've told this
story on the podcast before. I won't repeat it. I remember putting that movie on with a girlfriend who we were about to break up. I was like, oh, this will be fun. It'll be like, it's like a horny spring break comedy. Like, we'll have a good time watching this. And then it turned out to be the biggest mind fuck we've ever watched before.
I mean, MMA Jarrett as a youth preacher. I mean, within the first 5 minutes, Case, you knew you made the wrong choice.
Oh, the vibes were so off, but it was like, oh, we're not gonna turn it off. Like, we started it, we might as well finish it. So then we were just bummed out. That was a tough afternoon because we were not on the same page in that relationship, and somehow Spring Breakers just made it so much worse.
I mean, you don't watch a Harmony Korine movie to have a good time.
I thought it was like a Judd Apatow movie.
No,
I did not realize the lore behind Spring Breakers, Mike.
I mean, you haven't seen Trash Humpers or Gummo, so it's okay.
No, I have not. Hey, I real quick, I know we have to talk about Dragon Gate. We have to talk about Memorial Gate here, but you don't watch Euphoria, do you? No.
I recognize it for what it is, and I get that it's having a cultural moment. But my Sunday night show on HBO is the Righteous Gemstones. You know that. Yes, yeah, because I felt bad. You DM'd me about it a few weeks ago, and I was like, I'm so all consumed with Euphoria we'll
I
talk
haven't
about
watched.
BJ when you get to that point.
Yeah,
we'll
I
talk
haven't
about
even,
that.
and I love Gemstone season 1. I haven't thought about it because I was a day one Euphoria head. I watched the first episode when it premiered, and I was like, oh, this is my new favorite show. This is like One Tree Hill, but on an HBO budget. I love bad teen dramas, and Euphoria is that, but with Maude Apatow in it, which is a winning combination for me, a big Maude Apatow fan. Season 2 has blown me away at every turn. I look forward to every episode. I'm so bummed the season finale is this past week, and I said Judd Apatow made me think of Maude Apatow. I've been meaning to ask you for about a month and a half now if you watch Euphoria. You do not. That's okay.
Someday I will probably end up watching it, but not when. Oh, God, I'm now thinking. I think Gemstone's season finale is coming up.
Yeah, it's this Sunday. They're both season finales. It's such a bummer. Dragon System alumni Larry Dallas recently got into Euphoria, and boy oh boy, the takes that have been public on his Twitter feed or something, let alone the takes I've been getting privately. Euphoria is the show for Larry Dallas.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So what about Memorial Gate, Mike?
Really nothing else to talk about with Fukuoka. Kamei versus Shun was tremendous. Like, I don't feel like we see a lot of Kamei and Shun, which, I hope we can see a lot more of now. So that was like my other big takeaway from that. I went 4 stars on the Triangle Gate match. I thought it was the best Dragon Gate match of the week. But yeah,
it's great. Shun and Z-Brats is phenomenal. I think I wrote down in my notes, and I don't remember what my thought process was as I was writing this, but I have in my notes for these Fukuoka shows that, quote, Shun wrestles like a prison guard, and I can't expand on that thought, but I do stand by it.
I respect that. A whole lot. So, Memorial Gate, let's get into that. Attendance 285. Let's just talk about why this is. I have a big theory about it, Case. I want to hear yours first, though.
I just think it was a cold main event. It was guys in Daya and Yoshioka who I think can draw at a sustainable main event level, but I don't remember, was it Kyoto that they agreed to the match with Jason Lee and Estrella, or was it Korakuen?
No, it was Kyoto.
Yeah, they, I understand wanting to do the fragmented pieces of Masquerade in the tag match. I if this was a semi-main, I would love this match. But it was just an ice-cold main event because there was no real build to it, unless I'm forgetting something obvious, but I don't think I am. And
You're not, no.
yeah, three incredibly talented guys plus Astray, who I thought was good in this match. So four incredibly talented guys who were just not put in a position to succeed. So to me, that's it. Was, the past 2 years, we got Doi versus Eita, which I count more as a Kobe World main event than a Memorial Gate main event. And then last year, Shun versus Kazma, which the result was obvious in Shun winning, but that felt like a hot program going into that show. And this year, we got a very good Twin Gate match, but it was a cold match going into it.
Yeah, and I think that this match is indicative of them not announcing full cards. So you have this, and then you have the 5-way Open the Brave Gate #1 contender match, where the only 2 matches you announced here. And this show's had the vibe of pre-network Wakayama to me. Like, they built up Wakayama over the last few years as like a bigger show. Like, it was a second tier show. And it just felt like with the scheduling, this was a national holiday. This was Emperor's birthday on the 23rd. And then also with the fact that, Champion Gate is like the first big traditional weekend in Dragon Gate's year. They just, nothing was really built up for it. So you have a bad attendance. And when you look at the card and how the show was okay. Like, just like overall, like, you had some really solid stuff there. Nothing as good as anything in the Trial Gate tournament, mind you. But it just like, you just had like all this confluence of things happening here. And you have a brawl for the semi-main event that was only announced like after match 3 on this show. And like, if you're on Wakayama, you're coming off of seeing 2 Dreamgate matches the last 2 years, including a Dreamgate title switch. And your main event is someone with 1 year experience who is hit and miss, Jason Lee, who incredibly talented. There's no evidence that he's a draw. Like, that, I don't think that's a unfair thing to say.
No, not at all.
And then Dragon Dia and Yuki Yoshioka, who that's really been a Tokyo act so far. Like, they've highlighted them across all the stops there, but all the big moments there happened in Cork and Hall. So it's not like it's like a touring thing. It's like, oh, these are these dominant champions. This was their first title defense. And they still are a very fresh act. They only won the titles and re-debuted last month. So, like, yeah, no wonder attendance was bad. And this isn't me giving them outs there. This was, if you wanted to treat this like a big show, you didn't treat it like a big show. And you get the results of that.
I don't know where you stand. I am so over this mystery card thing. If you want to do it I think it would be great if they did every Kyoto show as a mystery vortex type deal, because they've marketed this idea that anything can happen in Kyoto. I think that'd be great. On shows this big, even on Corkins, I hate this, and I didn't like it when it was announced. We went back and forth. Initially, it sounded like, oh, maybe it was going to be January, and then I reached out to somebody in Japan, and they were like, no, this is, until we say otherwise, this is the plan. I don't like it at all. I don't like waking up and, having a Dragon Gate show to watch and not knowing what's on the card until, I have to check Twitter at that point and see what Jay tweeted out. Tell me if you disagree here. Champion Gate in Osaka this year, and I'm specifically looking at night 2, which is Kai versus Shimazu and Dia and Yoshioka versus SB Kento and Hyo for the Twin Gate belts. Last year's night 2, with that same lineup of a Twin Gate match of Mochizuki and Yoshida versus Hulk and Kai, and Skywalker versus Ishida in the main event, that did 500 fans. Assuming nothing drastic happens with COVID, we're going to assume that Omicron continues to lower in that country. If this show does worse than 500, I am putting that more so on this Mystery Vortex card gimmick they're doing and not on the wrestlers. I think this Mystery Vortex thing is hurting the attendance of these shows.
I don't think it's helping, but I also think that when you compare and contrast night 2 with this upcoming night 2, unless I'm wrong, I don't think Shimazu's from Osaka, and they really treated this like Kaito Ishida was really made in Ideon too, or the Edion complex. So the fact that he was getting his first world title match at Edion Arena 2 was a deal there. So
Shimazu is from Osaka.
he is. They never talk about that.
No, he
Really?
he debuted in Osaka. It's funny, the Dragon Gate website says he debuted in Osaka against Apollo Crews and not Uha Nation, which is very funny. But he is from Osaka.
Wow. Usually, like, they make that like front and center with that kind of stuff.
That's a good point. I have not heard that mentioned in the build of this match
at all. Yeah. So
now maybe it has on Japanese commentary, and we obviously just don't know. But it has not been reemphasized in any promos that we're aware of, and I don't think the English commentary team that I can remember has mentioned it.
Yeah. No. So that changes my opinion. If I'm going to guess, my acceptability is 450. But if it's much less than 450, then yeah, no, I'm totally with you that they have to stop this.
We just talked about it with SB Kento being a draw. I trust Kai in a spot like this. My gut says that Shimazu is a good challenger. If that show doesn't draw, it's because I think it's going to be because of this not announcing cards thing. It drives me nuts. I am so ready for it to be over. It worked in January. I thought it was a fun gimmick then. I have not enjoyed it this month.
Yeah, it's something that for Unit Shuffle, that's fine. I'm okay with that for it. But it's something that, like, it's a cute thing to do in January, like you were saying. But, like, you really kind of have to, like, put the cards back together at this point.
It's also, it makes our jobs harder, and I don't like that.
Yeah, that is very true. That
we can be
is
real
very
for
true.
a second. It makes our jobs harder.
Yeah. There's no way to do like an article preview for anything. It's just...
No, I felt there was somebody on Voice of Wrestling who's like, I might do a Memorial Gate preview if we have more than 2 matches announced. And I was like, well, I don't think we're going to, so good luck with that.
Yeah, no, yeah. So, yeah, hopefully, I mean, we'll get the name of the Menorah unit on Thursday. So maybe they'll take that as a sign to kind of curtail that a little bit, but they really got to get back to set cards. You've talked me into it, but Memorial Gate, should we go from top down or bottom up?
Let's start with the main event.
All right, main event, Open Twin Gate Championship match. Dragon Dai and Yuki Yoshioka, as y'all know, retained the belts. It was over Jason Lee and La Estrella X Masquerade. The finish was Darkness Buster, 450 splash, and Frog Splash on poor La Estrella in 17 minutes and 58 seconds. I went 3 3/4 case. I thought that Estrella held up his end of the bargain, like that was going to be the deal with it. But I mean, the crowd was cold. The crowd was sparse, as we came to know later. And it just was something that, like, Daya had a great babyface in Peril moment. Like, they really have this tag team act down. It just was something that either you needed a hotter crowd or a longer match for this to break into notebook range for me.
Yeah, another 3 or 4 minutes, and I think we're looking at a legitimately great Twin Gate match here because, like we said during the preview, we know what we're going to get from Jason, we know what we're going to get from Daya, and we know what we're going to get from Yoshioka. This match doesn't necessarily depend on Estrella for it to be great, but if Estrella is not good, this match could fall apart. And luckily for us, we had a pretty good La Estrella performance. I thought he hung in here in a main event spot.
Yeah, and I mean, he is going to be the big question mark coming out of Masquerade, and the fact that he seems to be putting it together in the ring is only going to help him out here where, he's healthy. Which, I mean, that's a leg up on. I know you talked about this on your review, comparing him and Strong Machine J. He could very easily fall into that position if, health or his consistency dips. So, like, being able to come out here and have a strong performance helps him out. I would look into whatever his second unit ends up being.
Yeah, I thought, like I said, I thought the match could have gone a few minutes longer, but the finishing stretch was really hot. Noticeably, a Jason Lee Hong Kong tornado that he hit on Yuki Yoshioka that had a very, very close near 3 count, a 2.9 if there ever was one before Dragon Daya broke it up. There was a spot in which it looked like, I believe it was Dragon Daya who was looking to go for some sort of code red, and Jason Lee's knee buckled, and it turned into a roll up, and then Lee rolled out of the ring. There was one more spot that he came back to do, and then he rolled back out of the ring, and the finish happened. I can't confirm Jason Lee did injure his knee in that spot. It doesn't look like to be any sort of specified knee injury. I don't think he's going to miss any time, but I do know that he was feeling pain in that knee the next morning. And then we go into the incredible stretch of finishing moves with the Darkness Buster, the Frog Splash, and the 450 for the win over Estrella. So hopefully Jason Lee's okay. And other than that, I thought this was a very good Twin Gate match.
Yeah, no, best wishes to Jason after that, because, I mean, a lot of weight was put on his shoulders, being the partner of Estrella here. And, it sucks that, he at least tweaked his knee, if not worse. Semi-main event, Eita versus Hyo. Hyo announced this after Maria's match that Maria promptly lost in match 3. Welcome to the Wakayama concession brawl case, because that's what we got here. Hyo ended up winning with a rope-assisted schoolboy when Maria tried to come out to help out Eita. Eita just socked her in the mouth, and then Hyo rolled her up. And case, we do have one very significant thing happening in this match.
Please go ahead, Mike.
The world's biggest and dumbest chair pile spot.
Oh boy, Akira Tozawa, as he's sitting on his couch with Tamina Snuka, because I don't know if you know, but they're doing a relationship angle between those two now, I believe. Tozawa had to be watching with such great pleasure with the chair spots in this match.
Yeah, this was just like an out-and-out brawl. Like, this is something that I wish this kind of was like a no DQ kind of scenario, because Hyo's become a really good brawler. I don't know if he's Doug Gilbert like you think he is, but he's really kind of put it together, and they just decided to wipe out the hard cam side of chairs, and then it had to be at least 25 chairs in a pile that they did a suplex on. Just hilariously stuff. And, just like a solid like pit stop match into whatever conclusion we're going to get out of Eita versus Z-Brats.
And not to mention the Irish whip spot where I think Eita cleared 12 rows of chairs. Hyo, maybe Hyo took that bump, actually. I think Eita sent Hyo into the chairs, and he just wiped out every piece of seating there was. This was so much fun. I talked about this in my review. I was going to talk about this no matter what Eita did on this show, because I was thinking about it during the Fukuoka cards. But props to Eita, who spent 4 years going through barbed wire, getting hit with chairs, doing table bumps, being in cage matches, and working Dragon Gate's main event style. And now for the past 2 or 3 months, he has come to the ring, kicked Maria in the groin, and left. And this man deserves it, okay? I hope his body is healing up. Even this match was, they were working, brother. This was the Wakayama concession stand brawl. It looked really painful. I'm sure both these guys are fine. Props to Eita for finally just relaxing a little bit.
Yeah, he's just chilling, there's a lot of chairs. He has the E chair that he always would have. So, he has a relationship with chairs. So, of course, there's just going to be slinging people into chairs, slamming people in chairs. I wonder what the Wakayama concession looks like. 'Cause remember, they had the Umboshis there when they did when they did, like, the special match that was not here this year. Like, they really sandbagged this show. There was no Wakayama Tornado winning rules match.
That's what I was waiting for. That I thought we were going to get some really fun Z-Brats, natural vibes, whatever Triangle Gate Wakayama Tornado match. We didn't even get that this year. This show was such an afterthought. This was a Road to Champion Gate show, which is odd given that there's another Korakuen before we get to Champion Gate.
At least Korakuen, we're going to know the Minoru group. Like, that's like the big focus for me there. I don't know how you really build up Fujiwara versus Dragon Dia at this point, but there'll be some. Yeah, God, the calendar this year for Dragon Gate has just been dumb, just out and out. Not like, I know some of it is holiday dependent and scheduling wise, but this is not laid out the way that you should lay out a Dragon Gate February into March.
Yeah, no, it's real. I love the idea of getting a big show like this in February when the calendar was unveiled. And now we see why this show typically comes after Champion Gate. It was nice in theory, poor in execution.
Yeah, so the match before that was Minoru's unit, Ishida, Minoru, and Doi defeating Natural Vibes Jackie Funky Kamei, Genki Horiguchi, and KZ. It was after a really insane triple team maneuver onto Genki Horiguchi. We should say that after this match, or no, this happened at Fukuoka. We had the Hot Boys challenge for Champion Gate. So this was a Trial Gate preview match. It was Minoru over Horiguchi with the gong in 10 minutes. I thought this was the best match on the showcase. I really was feeling it.
Really? All right. Well, walk me through what you liked about it so much.
They just had instant chemistry. This was something that, yeah, it was a 10-minute match. And like that was another thing about the show. Nothing really got time other than the main event.
Yes.
But it was just something that like you got to see Kamei with Minoru. You know what I mean? That's something that you didn't really see a whole lot of last year. Genki Horiguchi playing his role incredibly well. The triple team maneuver they had going into the gong on Horiguchi, where Doi had him up for basically what was the precursor to the muscular bomb, and then both Minoru and Ishida attacked him in that situation, and then he slammed him down. That was really sick. I really enjoyed this, and I like the chemistry we're seeing out of them in the Minoru unit already.
Yeah, the big takeaway for me here was the chemistry between KZ and Ishida, two guys who were arguably not supposed to be the focus of this match, but much like the statistic I dropped on you about SB Kento and Mochizuki earlier, I should note that KZ and Kaito Ishida have only had 2 singles matches with one another. One of them was on a next show in 2016, and the other was a dark match on December 23rd, 2015. So if there is a King of Gate pairing that we need, it is KZ versus Ishida, because I thought their chemistry was next level.
Yeah, it just was a really fun 10-minute match. And it was something that after all the stuff before it, I kind of really needed that in a way. So,
yes.
That really tapped me in the way I needed to.
Real quick, I know we're going long, but I just pulled up this 12/23/2015 card, and we've done this game before where I present a match to you from a prior era of Dragon Gate, and I will let you react as such. You want to hear the semi-main event of this show?
Oh, absolutely.
Akira Tozawa and T-Hawk versus Shima and El Lindaman.
Boy, that would have been an interesting match to lay out backstage.
A lot going on there, isn't there?
A whole lot going on back then.
Also, you know, the match before this, Don Fuji and Yoshino versus Shimazu and Dragon Kid. I don't know of a time that Yoshino and Fuji have ever teamed 2-on-2 like that before.
Yeah, because they didn't really team up much in Blood Generation either.
Wow, release the fan cams, release the tapes. This is a show that I'd like to see.
Now that is I don't want the fan cam to be in that Yoshino, the Yoshino Fuji corner, because I want to hear about like what they're talking about before the match.
Yeah, no, that is a very very interesting looking card. I'm glad I clicked on that. But yes, you like the 6-man far more than I did. I went 3 1/4 on it. But this Minoru Ishida Doi trio, I think they're going to have numerous great matches this year. I think there's going to be a great Hot Boys versus Natural Vibes trios match down the line. For me, this just wasn't it.
I mean, you have Horiguchi in this match, which as much as we love Genki Horiguchi, if you're going to put your 3 top members of Natural Vibes in there, he's not on the list. He's way down there. So, no, I think you're right about that.
Very much so.
Before that, we had the Open the Brave Gate #1 contendership 5-way match. This was all of Dragon Gate Future 2021, and it with the exception of Soya Sato, because there's no way you could even pass him off as being under 83 kilograms. It was Takuma Fujiwara coming out ahead. He defeated Ishin Ahashi for the final fall, but before that, Riki Ahashi, Ryu Fuda, and Takumi Hayakawa were eliminated as well. And this was a match case that it's very clear where Fujiwara is in comparison, like the Ahashi brothers and Fuda in a lot of ways, and that's kind of what came off to be. I was like, oh yeah, some of these guys are still kind of figuring it out, or they're ready for their next step. Takuma Fujiwara is already there, and he's 20 years old.
And just turned 20. He's not turning 21 anytime soon. He just turned 20 February 4th of this year, which is absolutely horrifying to think about.
And it looked like he's grown since each week. It looks like he's grown more and put on more muscle too.
Yeah, man, they really have something with him. And the way they laid out this match, and I went through this pretty carefully in my Voices of Wrestling review, is pinfall, submission, or over the top rope. So they have the Yahashi brothers knock out Hayakawa. So you're left with Ishin, Ricky, and Fuda, and Fujiwara. And you see Ricky and Fuda go over the top rope by way of Fujiwara, and then you have Ishin pinned by Fujiwara. And God, the way they did this was so smart, where Fujiwara clearly looked like the leader of his peer group, but still maintained rookie status by using the over-the-top rope eliminations. And mind you, one with a roll-up. We don't know what his finisher is. These guys still don't have entrance music, and I'm so curious to see if at Champion Gate he gets entrance music. I'm really hoping he comes out with a new song, possibly new gear, and a new big move in that Brave Gate match. But the way they laid this out was just so smart.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. He just got new gear, so I don't think he's going to get... Maybe he gets like a jacket. Maybe he gets an entrance jacket.
I would love that. Raven would love that as well.
Yeah, he needs to get himself a nice jacket there. It's something where I'm at a point, like we talked about this with the Hashi brothers, we're ready to see the next step with him. Fuda's figuring it out, and Hayakawa is what he is. Fujiwara is ready to step out from the future roster. Like, we've seen this now from him, and it's going to be fascinating because he is significantly bigger than Daya. So that's going to be a really kind of fun thing to see. And that's actually probably one of the things that piques my interest the most about this match, other than I think it's going to rule because Dragon Dai has become the most compelling babyface in all of wrestling in the period of a month. And Takuma Fujiwara is 20 years old and blowing my mind. Is the idea that Fujiwara is the bigger guy in this match with Daya. And he really hasn't had a whole lot of that so far.
Yeah, I am hoping, again, given this frail 20-year-old's body, that he is going to be able to base for Dragon Daya, and that together they're just going to be able to have the dumbest match full of cool spots possible. That's really what I'm looking for here. We know Fujiwara is going to score a ton of near falls. He's going to roll up Daya like crazy, and then we're going to get some finish with Dragon Daya hitting his 450, and we're going to move on from there. It could be the match of the weekend pretty easily, and it's a loaded Champion Gate. We have to figure out our recording schedule next because of Korakuen and then Champion Gate, and there's a ton of stuff coming up. I am ecstatic about the 4 title matches that we have, and I'm possibly most excited about Fujiwara versus Daya just because of the endless possibilities of what that match could look like.
Yeah, because I feel like we get a sense of the other 3 matches. Like, we know what Kai and Shimazu is probably going to look like. We don't know the kind of shenanigans we might have in the Twin Gate match with Z-Brats. And, we had a preview kind of the Triangle Gate match, and we know we kind of know our expectations. No idea what this could be with Fujiwara and Daya, and that's fascinating with me. That I am riveted with the idea of what this match could be like. Are we going to get to see like that slingshot double stomp? Seems to be like a big move there for Fujiwara. Is that going to be his moment of doubt, like deep 2 count, or is he going to like suddenly like pull off like a crazy Michinoku driver?
That's the thing. We need to see what that next big move is. Now, do you remember anybody in wrestling history, and you would know more than me, that has done that slingshot foot stomp the way he does it?
No, we talked about this guy earlier, but Gao Xinjia did like the crazy one, but that was completely different.
Yeah, no, that was actually next level. That move is still mind-blowing, but I don't know of anybody that's ever done that slingshot double stomp the way Fujiwara does it, and it's crazy because he's a pretty lanky guy. Like, he's bigger than most of this roster. He stands at only 5'6", which is crazy because he comes across so much bigger on this roster. That's a crazy move. That is a really, to me, an impressive feat of athleticism when he does that. I pop for it every time I see it.
Oh yeah, no, it's sick as hell, and I'm really stoked to see it. And putting him and Daya, 2 guys under the age of 25, semi-main eventing, and then Daya. This is going to be the real Daya draw test this next weekend, more so than Shimazu versus Kai, because he's semi-main eventing both shows.
That is true. I had not put that together. That is very true. He is semi-main eventing both of those shows. I think he's going to be in 2 great matches, and again, I'm really curious to see that number because with the direction that Dragon Gate has gone, these should be the next stars. These shows should draw well, and if they don't, again, given what we've seen, especially with SB Kento, I tend to believe that it's going to be the the non-card announcements that are going to hurt this show, but we're 2 weeks out and we have the featured matches. So I don't know what to think. I really hope these shows do well at the box office because I think these are going to be great shows.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there. Match 4 was the entire complement of high end: Benkei, Dragon Kid, Kagetora, Keisuke Okuda, and Yamato versus the veterans: Don Fuji, Masaki Mochizuki, Shuji Kondo, Ultimo Dragon, Yasushi Kanda. It was the Kaganui from Kagetora on Kanda and the touch football match of the night.
See, I really like this because we had come off of a stretch of, an opening match that I thought was good, but went 15 minutes, so it felt a little long. We had the team roll up or shut up match, which was a nothing match. And then we had, we'll talk about it in just a second, that really weird Diamante and SB Kento versus Tominaga and Maria match. So this show started very slow. It just, you were feeling every minute of this show by the time we had got to high end versus the Legends. And then Benkei and Shuji Kondo came in the ring and started hitting each other. And I was like, all right, I'm back in. This is Memorial Gate and Wakayama, baby. Let's get into it. I really liked this match. I thought it had a great beginning with, again, Benkei and Kondo. Kondo, really good year so far, both in Dragon and in DDT. And then I thought we had a super hot finishing stretch here. So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, Benkei and Kondo were the highlights of this match. And it's something that, with Kondo being around intermittently and being hurt a lot with the Achilles tendon, we haven't been able to see a whole lot. And I know we had our misconceptions about Kondo coming in 2020. We're like, oh yeah, the unleashed King Kong, the delinquent King Kong's here, and suddenly everything's going to change. And now it seems like he's happy to be there. But being able to get the bursts of 2004 Shuji Kondo, especially against someone like Benkei, who is completely different from anyone he would face in his original run, it's been a whole lot of fun here. High end is just, I hate high end case. I really fucking hate high end. I just have no time for them as a group. I don't get other than this is Yamato's unit, and I think some of that comes down to Yamato in a way. I just we have 5 guys in this unit that I do like to various degrees. I love Dragon Kid. Kagetora, when you give him something to sink his teeth into, he could be one of the 50 best wrestlers in the world. Okuda, when he's doing an Okuda match with someone who wants to have an Okuda match, is great. Benkei is incredibly dynamic and special, and Yamato is the ace of the company. Just them all together just kind of just drains me. I'm over it. I know they're coming up on their 1 year anniversary. I'm like, can Z-Brats can they get their first notch on their belt and just take care of this for me? Do it for your old pal, SB Kento. Just wipe out these scrubs for me.
Yeah, I mean, look, if the April Corkin show rolls around and we're doing unit disband Z-Brats versus high end, I'm going to be very excited at the possibilities of that, because you're exactly right. Maybe this is just my read of it. Maybe this is somebody not living in Japan watching this promotion. But boy, do I feel like the future class is a much more vital part of this promotion right now. And obviously not in terms of popularity, but just in terms of being on the card and the energy they bring. The future kids all seem so much more impactful to these shows than high end. Natural Vibes is crushing it. They just had an entire weekend built around them in Fukuoka. You have Z-Brats, who I love the presentation of, and I think they've been very good so far. You have the Doi Ashita Minoru stuff, which is clicking with me. I think it's a great story. They are a vital part of every show. You have the rookies and the legends who are doing their thing. And then off on their own island is high end. And this is what I talked about, 4 or 5 months ago when I broke down and talked about how much I hated high end. They just don't fit in right now. It's so weird. And I don't think it's an age thing with, Yamato and Kagetora and Dragon Kid, especially being of a different generation. I just think they're boring. They have no natural rivals other than Yamato versus Kai, which has played out and we've seen that. And it's not like that was anything great. They just exist and they're stars, but they're stars in a vacuum, so who cares?
And I was flipping through my notes because I completely co-sign what you're saying. Yamato has opened more cards this year than main evented cards.
Which I think is purposeful given that he lost the Dreamgate belt at the end of Final Gate. And I'm, quite frankly, very much okay with that. We don't need Yamato headlining more shows. That's not going to fix high-end's problem. Do I wish that, Ben and Akuda and Dragon Kid had a rival that they could point to and that they could carry a feud for a few months? I do. Do I wish Yamato had, seemingly a long-term rival that wasn't Kai? Yeah, I do. But the reality is we're not, but I would rather have Yamato opening shows at this point than closing shows.
Yeah, and it's something that, I mean, Yamato also has the stuff with the Gurken Mask going on Ryukyu Dragon. That's been like the big focus of everything in Tokyo. So like he's out of he's out from like up front right now, which is fine. But I'm just kind of like, I don't even know how you fix this because this is a small unit. You don't like add Fuda in here and that's going to change anything. Like it just
not with the current lineup. Would I be interested in Yamato, Ben, Akuda, and Fuda together as, the Pancrase invasion of Dragon Gate? Yeah, I'd be pretty into that. I actually think that'd be incredibly interesting because I like when Yamato goes to the mat. We saw that last year with that Yamato versus Akuda King of Gate match that I thought was one of the best matches in Dragon Gate this past year because it was an interesting side of Yamato. It wasn't main event Yamato. It was this throwback to an era that he doesn't really visit anymore. There's an avenue for all of these guys to be entertaining, but they just don't feel like you know what I mean? Like they don't feel like they're a part of the promotion. They're just off in their own little universe.
Yeah, and it's not dissimilar to Tribe Vanguard, but Tribe Vanguard, he had parts that were a whole lot of fun together. Though,
because you ended with the UT Maria Kagatora trio, but even that was
right
towards the end of that run. You had Flamita, who I was probably, just given my thoughts on Flamita, I was probably a little more into him and Tribe Vanguard than you were, but you still had that issue, and that was, during Yamato's Dreamgate run that I hated with a passion, and I like Yamato, but there are times when I don't. Right now, I don't like Yamato. I find him to be very boring again.
It's just exhausting. He has a very exhausting presence where because at the tail end of Tribe Vanguard, he was doing all that tag stuff with Hulk and Kai. That was great. Like that was fun tag teams. And
the Yamato Hulk Twin Gate run was very fun. You're right. That's true. And I should give Tribe Vanguard credit for that as well.
Yeah. Because I think I'm more down on Tribe than you are, but I love that tag team run.
Oh god, yeah, what an awful unit. Ugh, my god.
Yeah,
ugh, gross. Absolutely gross.
For a palate cleanser case, how about some Punch Tominaga? Because match 3 was Yosuke Samaria and Punch Tominaga versus SB Kento and Diamante. SB Kento basically went kick in the stomach, SB shooter on Yosuke Samaria, lost in 34 seconds. Hyo took the mic immediately and set up that semi-main event between him and Eita. This was just promoting the Hyo and Eita match, basically.
This was weird, wasn't it? Like, I understand the purpose this served, but this was still weird.
Oh, yeah, no, it was something that, it felt like, oh, we have all these people here, but we need to do this other match. And when you have, SB Kento and Diamante, left adrift in this, Yosuke Samaria and Punch Tominaga case, we expect that out of those two to be, in these throwaway matches here, but not SBK and Diamante.
Yeah, I really wish they would have had a Wakayama Tornado match with SB Kento, Hyo, and Diamante against whoever. And I think that would have helped the card a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you could have... I mean, you look also at, the other 3 members of Z-Brats in the opener. You could have made, a strong Z-Brats team there, and you could have Z-Brats win against a Natural Vibes team, and then you would have been able to... Or if you want to further build up the International House of Hot Boys, have the Hot Boys, and they take 2 falls straight. You know what I mean? You could have done this instead of having a very exhausting 3-hour show.
Yeah, this was just a poorly constructed card, because like I said earlier, the first 45 minutes of this show felt like 45 minutes. I guess it wasn't even that long. It was the 15-minute opener, the 5-minute Yoshida match, and the 30-second Diamante SB Kento match. But man, this show took a long time to get going, and it's not like the back half of it was otherworldly, so it was just a slog of a show to get through.
Yeah, and that leads us to that Yoshida match. He teamed with Ho-Ho Loon, so Roll Up or Shut Up has reunited yet again. They're going to go on a Twin Gate tear. Just wait. They beat Strong Machine J and Sachiyoko Boy in 3 minutes with a release cyber bomb from Yoshida.
I'm really bummed that Ultimo Dragon's going to be in the States starting this weekend, and Ho-Ho Luna is already back in Japan. I would have liked to have seen those two run roughshod through the U.S. indie scene, but That will not be happening. Team Roll Up or Shut Up. I look at the MLW All Japan relationship now and how, they've got the Saito brothers who, God bless them, I hope it works out. But in another universe, MLW is booking the Ahashi brothers right now. And we know Court Bauer loves nostalgia, loves 80s wrestling. If the Dragon Gate partnership was still alive and well, we could have Yoshida and Ho Ho Lun coming out to Road Warrior-like pops with Team Roll Up or Shut Up, but it's just not meant to be.
I mean, Yoshida still probably has his pads. Like, give a pair of them to Lun, and you're good to go.
I would really like to see that, but look, you get Ho Ho Lun and Sashi Hoko Boy on the card. I'm not complaining. This was a fine match.
Yeah, this was fine. Like, this was like, if they had one of these matches on the show, it would have been fine. But then you followed it up with another inconsequential match, and that's getting us the bad vibes for the first 45 minutes. The opener we've alluded to, natural vibes. Susumu Yokosuka, Big Boss Shimazu, and UT went to a time limit draw with Z-Brats, Kai, BB Hulk, and Shun Skywalker. I like the frustrating thing about this build is it's clear that Shimazu and Kai have the chemistry, but it's just like this match I thought was fine overall. Like, I went 3 on it, but it just really, like, we got to see like UT and Hulk grapple, which was a bizarre delight for me, but it just kind of was there.
Yeah, it was, it was Memorial Gate. It was there.
And that was Open the Voice Gate for this week.
Oh, boy.
We'll be back sometime next week. We got to figure this all out. Like, it's Case wasn't joking when he said, like, oh, Mike's been talking about this for a while. I have a whiteboard with like both AEW and Dragon Gate schedules on there that I change around each month. And I've been looking at this week. I'm like, oh yeah, this is happening. This is happening.
So let's do on-air production meeting as we close out here. So there's a Kobe show this Sunday.
Right.
So we got to talk about Kobe, and then we'll pencil in with an asterisk because it could be changed. We might do some more Kness content.
Mm-hmm. We will be doing more Kness content. It might be coming. It will be. I can promise.
We'll do that. Yeah, we'll do that in March.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I've been talking to people. We're gonna have at least one really fun Kness episode.
Some heavy hitters in the Kness fan club.
Right. Yes. Perhaps maybe even the president of the Kness fan club.
Yeah, very, very much so. The president of the Windows unit fan club as well. So we got the Kobe show. We'll do something else to talk about that there, and then Korakuen is Thursday. Champion Gate is Saturday and Sunday. We'll be back on normal schedule because we'll just do a loaded episode of Korakuen and Champion Gate 2 weeks from now. But we'll do Kobe and something else this upcoming Tuesday.
That works for me.
Yeah, great. And Open the Voice Gate listeners, this is, you guys listen for 2 hours, you end up getting an on-air production meeting.
Hey, it could have been in the DMs. We do it live instead.
That's all I've got, Mike.
Yeah, I did find one thing that I know that I would doubt that he would hear this, but this would very much amuse him. Do you know who Big Boss Shimazu's first wrestling match was that he watched?
Oh, I'm sure it was Kevin Nash and Scott Hall against somebody.
It was at age 4. It was with Sting.
I knew so that are you going to cover Big Boss Shimazu for the This Is Sting series?
I mean, I got another 11 Sting matches to go to. We're already at over 2 hours of Sting content.
It's funny. Was it? I don't remember if it was you or Aaron that. Oh no, I think Aaron sent out a tweet of like, "What's everybody's favorite Sting match?" And I went to reply to it, and then I thought, you know what? I have no idea. I have seen Sting wrestle hundreds of matches, and I genuinely don't know where to begin when it comes to what his best match is, because they're all kinda like just 4 stars. Like I don't know how to answer this question, and so I deleted the tweet.
Hey, Clash 1 was an excellent match. Class
That's true.
Yeah. No, I've been enjoying that series, but you can find that on the Patreon. But anyways, that's going to do it for us this week. You can follow us on Twitter at OpenVoiceGate. I'm at Fujihaya. Cases at _ in your case. Thanks for listening to Open Voicegate. We'll be back with you on Tuesday talking about they're at the Kobe Art Center for the first time. So that'll be fun. But that'll do it for us. Take care.